I've heard a lot of people complaining that NASCAR isn't as good as it used to be because of various changes the organisers have made to the sport over the years. They say it's become too corporate, too sanitised, that it doesn't prioritise the fans enough and instead only focuses on the sponsors. But the good news is, I have the perfect solution on how to fix NASCAR, and with these few simple changes, it'll be better than ever before. To start off with, I think NASCAR should reconsider their position as a national championship. At the moment, NASCAR only really runs in one country, with the occasional trip across the border to Mexico or Canada and some weird European spin-off series that literally nobody watches. But what about if they raced internationally, have a bunch of rounds in Europe, in fact? You could even put a round of the championship in Africa, in say Kenya for example. This would bring a much wider audience, and more viewers is always something a sport needs. You could have it in all sorts of iconic locations, including Monte Carlo and Sweden. This would not only broaden the audience, but also improve the sport's image as a whole. One thing they've recently added into NASCAR is something they call stage racing, where they deploy the safety car at various points throughout the race, whether or not there's an incident, in order to close up the pack and give out points for stage wins. This is an extremely controversial idea and many fans absolutely hate it, and I can see why. I'm not a fan of how they implemented it, but I do like the idea, the sound of a motorsport event which is sort of like split up into lots of different stages. That definitely sounds like an idea that's got some potential. One more thing is that General Motors has been having a bit of financial troubles recently. They aren't doing so well. I mean, when was the last time you ever saw a Chevrolet on the road? I haven't seen one in at least a month or so. They're not exactly a road-relevant manufacturer anymore, but one brand has definitely increased its market share over the years, and that brand is Hyundai, which is why I propose replacing Chevrolet with Hyundai. This way, your manufacturers in the championship would be Hyundai, Ford, and Toyota. I think that would be a fantastic trio. One other thing that NASCAR organisers have added recently was the return of dirt ovals. This is really popular with the fans, and I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of a championship that runs on multiple types of road surface. It really adds to the diversity of the challenge. But I think they could take this a step further. Whilst the gravel surface is great, doesn't the layout seem just a bit boring when it's just an oval? Seems a bit too predictable, but I have the perfect solution to this. There's heaps of gravel roads all around the world. What you could do is you could close off sections of gravel roads or even tarmac roads around the place and hold your races there. That would provide some crazy action, as closed off public roads have all sorts of variables that racetracks don't have, whether they be ovals or conventional tracks. Of course, it'd be too dangerous to have all the cars racing side by side on a closed off public road that isn't a barriered off street circuit. So what you could do instead is have the cars set off at timed intervals, and instead of racing, you could compete for who can complete the closed off section of road the fastest. This is where you can bring back the stage idea, you see. Maybe have the cars travel to different sections of closed off public roads on open sections between them, and have these sections of closed off public road be called the stages. Another advantage of closed off public roads is the spectators. They'll be able to get really close to the cars and see them way better than you can behind a layer of catch fencing at an oval track. And of course, hundreds of kilometres of stages has way more room for spectators than a 2-kilometre oval. Of course, the drivers would need to know where they're going. They won't necessarily be familiar with the road ahead, which is why I also propose adding a second person into the car who can tell the driver what's coming up on the road ahead, so they can still drive absolutely flat out, even over blind crests and corners. Finally, there's the cars. These ones just look really, really bad. They remind me of that weird mail van America's buying. They call these stock cars, but they don't look like cars at all. I have a solution to this too. They can keep the silhouette idea to keep repair costs low, but perhaps they could base the design on like a regular commuter car, but with heaps of crazy aero bits attached to the car that make it look like some mad machine. Something a little bit like this. Anyway, here's some footage of what this fixed version of it would look like, and let me know which motorsport I should fix next.